We're holding on the top of Mem Gimel Amid Aleph for exactly a daf behind 43a1, but we're just going to go back to 42b3, just the beginning of the Gemara, because we just started it yesterday, and the Gemara here is obviously going to continue. So here we go. It says the Gemara, we're definitely going to stop at 5 to 9. I didn't daven yet. So here we go. So if the Gemara says, why is it forbidden to take the lulav on Shabbos in the Beis Hamikdash when it's not the first day of Yom Tov? Tiltul ba'almahu the Shabbos. All it is touch taking. It's only a muksa problem. Let the mitzvah of taking the lulav, which is a mitzvah d'oraisa, a mitzvah min HaTorah, and let it override the rabbinical problem of muksa. Amarabba. Because Gezerah, they made a Gezerah, Shema Yitlenu B'Yoda V'Yelech Eitzel Baked Lulav. Because you might take the lulav on Shabbos, carry it to an expert to teach you how to use it, the shaking situation. Now we're once again back on 43a1 where we were beginning. And inadvertently carry 4 amas in the Shusarabim, thereby being over on a Isser D'Oraisa. So says the Gemara, B'hainu Tama de Shofar, and that's the reason why we don't blow shofar on Shabbos. B'hainu Tama de Megillah, why we won't read the Megillah on Shabbos if Purim could fall out on Shabbos. So, right, the Gemara, if we're so worried about you might come to carry on the Shabbos, that even the first day, but I should worry about carrying, I might come to carry the lulav and esrog inappropriately to an expert. Says the Gemara, Rishon ha tiknu le Rabbanan bebeisai. And regarding the first day, the Rabbanan did guys that you should take the lulav in your own house. Take the lulav in your own house. Don't carry it to this thing, but take the lulav in your own house. So says the Gemara, ha teinach achar takana. Okay, so that answer is good. After the rabbis made the decree, don't bring it anymore to the Beis Hamikdash, even on the first day of Yom Tov. Shake it at home, right? But before they made that gezerah, right? What are you going to say? How did the guys do lulav on the first day of Yom Tov in the Beis Hamikdash? There was a great chance of them carrying it inadvertently. So says the Gemara, you're right. Let's change my reasoning. Ella, Rishon the Ispa min HaTorah b'Gevulin. The case of the first day's obligation, if it should fall out on Shabbos, is because not only in the Beis Hamikdash did they take the lulav and esrog when the Shabbos fell out on the first day, but even in the provinces, even in Yerushalayim itself, they took the lulav and esrog on the first day of Yom Tov, even if it fell out on Shabbos. Therefore, like God's Rabbanan, the Rabbanan did not geyser. The importance of the obligation of the day keeps the Rabbanim from abolishing it. Hanach, but the other 6 days of Yom Tov, day 2 through a Shana Rabbah, listed in HaTorah b'Gevulin. Since not in the Beis Hamikdash, Daddy, good morning. Since not in the Beis Hamikdash, in the provinces, you do not have to take the lulav and esrog. We're on 43a1, where we left off yesterday. 43a1. Okay, so in that case, it's not min HaTorah. Gazul or Rabbanan, the Rabbanan therefore issued a decree that since the other 6 days you don't biblically have to take the lulav and esrog. So if we're in Boca Raton, we don't have to take a lulav and esrog. Theoretically, from day 2 of the Yom Tov all the way through a Shana Rabbah, we only do it as a zeicher to what happened before, as a remembrance. So if it falls out on Shabbos, we don't do it, which of course we don't do it, right? So says the Gemara, if that's the case, then even today, now, and when we don't have a Beis Hamikdash, let the obligation of the first day apply. Today, if the first day of Sukkot falls out on Shabbos, do we take the lulav and esrog? We do not. But according to what we just learned, you should. Because the obligation, even in the provinces, because the mitzvah on everybody to take, you shall take for you B'yom harishon, on the first day, creates our encounter the Barbie a little bit. So you should take it in your house. But do we do it?
And even if Hamikdash in the province and say
They did it, took it in the house because of the Ksei Rabbana. But why today don't we do it? Good question. We should, if that's what the way the Gemara was flowing through. So the Gemara then says we're now on the bottom of 43a1. We in Babylonia don't know the exact establishment of the month. We're on 43a2. What do I mean by that? We know that before the calendar, right, they had to wait for the Pony Express to get there from Jerusalem, to get there from Eretz Yisrael. So that's why we ended up with Yontav Sheni Shalgolius, 2 days of Yontav Sheni. Since we don't know really what is the first day of Yontav in Babel, patience, just let the Gemara play itself out, right? Let's play it out. Since we do not know really what the first day of Yontav is, so now we have a suffix. So now I've got a suffix, an uncertainty. On an uncertainty, I'm not taking the lulav on Shabbos based on an uncertainty. So says the Gemara, but inu diyode b'kibiyah diyachad alaychu. But we who are aware of the establishment of the new month, those who live in Eretz Yisrael, let them override the Shabbos. Let them ride in Eretz Yisrael. They know when the month is established.
Let us have 2 days to take it.
Yeah, but we can't do it. You can't take that because one of them is a suffix. So we can't do it. If it falls out on Shabbos, right? Okay. Well, let's finish playing this out. We can't take it on Shabbos. We who don't know when the first real day is, obviously we can't pick it up on the Shabbos because one of them, if it's not, what do you call it? One of them, if the second day is the Shabbos, so that's no good, right? That we can't do. But the question is in Eretz Yisrael, when they certainly knew what the real day was, and they know that this day of Sukkot is the first day of Sukkot having fallen on Shabbos, they should take it. So says the Gemara, Ein Hachinami. You're right. They should take it. Those of you in Eretz Yisrael, even when the base of English is not standing, right, she'll take it as a remembrance, at least on the first day of Sukkot, because that's still a biblical thing. So says the Gemara, wait a minute, let's see. Tani Chada, we got one Mishnah that taught, when the first day of Sukkot falls on Shabbos, on Friday, everybody brought the Levim to the Temple Mount. Vitanya Idot, the basic Knesset, and others say they took it to Shul, not to the Temple Mount. But either way, what does it show? That they did shake the lulav on Shabbos. Shema Mina, Kam Bizman Shabbos Hamikdash. Here in this Mishnah, right, it's talking about when the Beis Hamikdash was standing. Kam Bizman Shem Beis Hamikdash, and the other Mishnah that says we do not do it is when the Beis Hamikdash was not standing, right? So we see the second Mishnah tells us that even after the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, when the first day of Sukkot fell out of Shabbos, the lulav obligation is performed. This could only be true in Eretz Yisrael when they knew for sure when the first day of Yom Tov really was. So therefore, we see from this Mishnah that even nowadays, those in Eretz Yisrael override the Shabbos for the sake of the lulav. So says the Gemara, Shema Mina, perfect proof. So says the Gemara, wait a minute. First of all, where did we know? We all based this on, as Bob kept pointing out, that in the provinces you had to take the lulav even on the first day, and they took it even on the Shabbos back in the day. So he says, how do you know this? How do you know? I just threw that out there. How do you actually know that that's true? That in the provinces you take the lulav and esrog even on the first day, or if it falls out on Shabbos. To Tanya, because we learned exactly like we were saying, and you shall take. There should be a taking in the hand of each and every individual. Okay?
Why is there a calendar down as to when Sukkot is?
Patience.
The argument falls apart from the start.
1 second.
We know it's Sukkot.
We're getting there. Patience. Okay, we're getting there. I tell you, because you're saying, of course, I know the calendar today.
No, even that, because when Rosh Hashanah was, you saw the moon, so you count the days to
Actually, how many days do we hold Rosh Hashanah?
Well, today too.
Back then too.
No, but after you've seen the moon, you know the exact month.
But they had a
count
problem. There were places in Babel, as we're going to find out, that it took more than 15 days to get from Eretz Yisrael to think. And they made a thing. They should have really held in Babel. They should have held 2 days Yom Kippur. They should have fasted 2 days in a row.
So even by Sukkot, they were still unsure of the day.
Correct. There was no WhatsApp. Correct. There you go. So the Tanya, and that's a lot, but it's coming up. It teaches that they were taking in the hand of each and every individual. Lochem meshalochem. It has to be yours. So in other words, I might have thought that you should take your debt. It would have been enough if the Rav, if the shul takes the lulav and Again, he's might see everybody. No, everybody. Everybody's got to take. Not from borrowed or stolen. Bayahim, afilu b'Shabbos. On the day, even Shabbos. Rishon first, afilu b'Gevulin. Ha Rishon with the extra hay. Now we're coming up to the extra day. It doesn't say Bayahim Rishon first day. It says Bayahim Ha Rishon. The first day. What's the? Otherwise known as the Hey Hayediyah, the Hey that underlies the word. Okay, we're going to talk about it in a second. Malamed, let's give me a second. Malamed, she'enai doicha el yontav rishon bilvad. That the word the comes to tell us that the overriding of the Shabbos only takes place on the first day of Sukkot. Now, look at the second to last Tosfos on the page. Just a very fascinating Tosfos. What did I just tell you? That because it says Ha Rishon, the first, that's an underline, known as the. Okay. Okay. So, give me a second. I'm sorry. So it says Taisis, Misyaira dehei, the Kodorish dehei miyutahu. In this case, the hay is coming to contract. The first day is coming to tell us only when the first day is Shabbos, but not when Shabbos falls on the 2nd through 7th. So over here, it's not a hey hamoisiv. The hey the is not coming to add. It's a miyut. The hey a miyut. The kodei hey miyut. Kloima berishon lechudei hu debay b'yayim. The hu debay b'yayim. It's only on the first day that if Shabbos falls out on the first day, that's the only day that you can bring the lulav and esrog. Mashahen Kaines, Taisus says, Zimnin, skip down to the third line in Taisus, Zimnin da ase hey l'rabbis. There are times when the comes to be moistened, to add, comes to add. So in other words, the point I'm trying to say here is when a word has an extra hey, it's the hey hayediyah. It underlines the word. Sometimes to add something, sometimes to contract. But the vav, the next letter, vav, is always vav hamoisif. When it says u or v, it's always a ribui. And always comes to add. The language is vav hamoisif. The hey, vav hamoisif.
How do you put it in a word?
You say, let's say, I'm trying to say, uba mayim. Let's just say, and by water. Let's just say. So why do you have to say the and? The Gemara will then try to say what is it coming to? What is it coming to include? You'll see it. Once you see it, we'll bang into it. Masha Enkain, the hay is the is an underline. It's either coming to underline to tell us we're adding, or we're coming to subtract. But either way, it doesn't mean it's either coming to be mamayit or to be maraba. But the vav is always coming to add.
So the vav tells you what the hay is meaning. Is the delineation?
No.
Because they can add or subtract. The
Right,
vav is
but
to
a
add.
vav is to add.
Add.
Right.
Right.
So in other words, if it said ubayim, it would be to add.
Right.
Hayim, it just means it's underlined. I got to figure it out.
Right. I get it.
And in the language, in the parlance of the Gemara or the Svarim, it's called hey hayediyah, the hey that's coming to let me know something, and vav is vav hamoisim, vav is coming to add. Okay. So now, so here we go. So says the Gemara, Amamar beyoyim bayoyim afilu b'Shabbos mechti. Let's see. Tiltul ba'amahu. Taking the lulav is only a problem in the Rabbanan of Muksa. It's nothing by itself. There's no problem I shouldn't take it. It's a crawl of Misha Tiltul. Do I need a pasuk to tell me I'm allowed to handle it on the Shabbos? Because we have a mitzvah say to take the lulav. Of course, it overrides. There's no problem. There's no muksim in Atayra. It's only coming to teach me about the hechsha mitzvah, the preliminaries, the accessories to the mitzvah. And it's going to this Tana, the Tana, because we learned lulav v'chol machshira of doichenes Shabbos. The mitzvah of lulav and all its accessories override the Shabbos. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. This is the famous Gemara known as Perik Mila de Rabbi Eliezer de Rabbi Eliezer de Mila. That means the mitzvah is to circumcise your son. If the 8th day falls on a Shabbos, you need to circumcise your son. The knife that needs to be brought is only a hechsha mitzvah. Right? The mitzvah is that he needs to be circumcised. The knife is only, you can't do it without the knife.
And he can carry it on Shabbos.
According to Rabbi Eliezer. According to the Rabbanan, he has to prepare it the day before.
More than carry. If you don't have a knife, you could take a piece of metal
and grind
melt
it down.
And form a knife.
So you could be over a million.
According to Rabbi Eliezer,
we don't pass this, but it's called Rabbi Eliezer de Mila.
But if he carries a knife, he has to carry it covered, right?
No, just the opposite.
Carries it open?
Open so that people should see that it's for
a mitzvah.
For the mitzvah, right?
I forgot.
Right, Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. My time of the Rabbi Eliezer. What's the reason of Rabbi Eliezer? Amakra ba yoim afilu b'Shabbos. The Rabbanan who argue and say you cannot carry the knife, and you certainly can't form the knife on the 8th if you blew it, if you didn't prepare it before Shabbos, then you'll have to do the bris milah on the 9th day. My bayoim, my ovidlei. How did they touch up bayoim? Because by milah it says bayoim hashmini, and they don't allow him to use the hechsha mitzvahs, the accessories to the mitzvahs on Shabbos. It says remember bayoim b'loy b'layla, that you can only take the lulav by day and not at night, which is, by the way, milah is also by day and not by night. So the Rabbi Eliezer b'yoim b'layla minonah. How does Rabbi Eliezer know this? Not because he sefer the Qur'an. He knows it from the sefer of the pasuk. V'samachtem l'fnei Hashem l'keichem shivas yomim, and you should rejoice before Hashem for 7 days. Yomim v'loy laylos, right? Days and not nights, because it says like this. Right? The lashon in the pasuk, it says it from the days. It says v'samachtem l'fnei Hashem l'keichem shivas yomim, 7 days. Not Shivas Yom, Shivas Yomim means only the day. Rabbanan imehasam. Rabbanan says if you're trying to learn it out from the word Shivas Yomim, Havamina, I would have said, I might have had a thought to say, Leilet Yomim Yomim Misukka. We should learn Yomim, the days, and the other time, the days
from the mitzvah of Sukkos. Ma'ala halon by Sukkos, Yomim va'afilu leilos. Obviously, the mitzvah of sitting in a sukkah is both by day and by night. Avkad nami Yomim va'afilu b'leilos. I might have thought, therefore, if I was using the word Yomim to teach me about Lulav, I would have said, yeah, on the contrary, you do take it at night because it's similar to Sukkah. Kamash Malon, I needed the words day by to what he called to limit it to day and not by night. So now the Sukkah Gufa Minolan. Right, the Sukkah Gufa Minolan. How do I know Sukkah is a 24-hour a day mitzvah, day and night? But Sukkah Tanurabana, but Sukkah stays for Shivas Yamim. Right? In Sukkot you shall dwell for 7 days. Yomim va'afilu b'leilos. Days and even nights. Ata on Yomim afilu b'leilos. Oi, ein ela Yomim b'leilos. Maybe it's only days and not nights. V'dinu. And the truth is, I'd have a fortuity, a kal v'chayma argument to show you that the mitzvah of Sukkot should only be by day and not by night.
So we're arguing by the word Yomim.
We're trying to explain why we need all these words, because otherwise,
By Yom, it means just in the daytime. By Yomim,
let's see here. V'dinu nemakam Yomim. Regarding Sukkah, it says the words Yomim, days. V'nema b'lulav Yomim, and it says by lulav you shall take it for Shivas Yomim. Ma'alahalon, and we're on 43:8:4. Ma'alahalon, just like by lulav Yomim v'loy leilos. Afkans Yomim v'loy leilos. I might have said regarding Sukkah that it's days and not nights. So therefore, I need the extra word Yom to teach me that lulav is only by day, but Sukkot is the other way. But the Gemara says, like, I could always argue that a different way. Klach l'derech zu, nema kan Yomim. By Sukkah it says days. V'nema b'miluyim Yomim. And regarding the inauguration of the Mishkan by Aaron and his sons, it says days. Shmoina Yomim, right? 8 days. Ma'alahala Yomim afilu.
It says that Aaron and his son had to stay
inside the Mishkan
for
8 days. Right. Ma'alahala Yomim afilu leilos. Over there it says, obviously it was day and night. Aaron and his sons had to remain 24 hours a day. First 8 days to stay inside the Mishkan. Afkan Yomim afilu leilos. So to regarding Sukkah, right, it's also days and nights.
And even after, for the Simcha, even after the death of the sons,
They still had
the Kohanim had to stay there.
Had to stay there, right? And that's how we learned you don't be become a mace. Exactly. So if the analogy is to the inauguration, to the Miluyim, then we definitely know that the mitzvah of Sukkah is both by day and night. So near Lamidami. Let's see who's the better comparison. Do I compare Sukkah to Lulav and say the mitzvah is only by day? Or do I compare it to Miluyim, to the inauguration, and say that the mitzvah is day and night? Don and Dover shemitzvah kol hayoyim, midover shemitzvah kol hayoyim. On the other hand, do we derive the law of something whose obligation is the entire day, which is Sukkah, from something whose obligation is the entire day, the inauguration, the Miluyim, and take away from somebody whose mitzvah is only for one moment? Because the minute I pick up the lulav and esrog and the lulav and esrog, I was mekayim the mitzvah, right? Al natilas lulav, I pick it up. That's it. I'm done. Game's over, right? Sukkah. Anytime I want to eat during the day, I got to go in there, right? I can learn it the other way. I derive something whose mitzvah is for generations, i.e. the mitzvah Sukkah, from another mitzvah that's generations, i.e. Lulav and Esrik. Mashen came the inauguration, which you can only inaugurate, is a one-shot deal.
Yeah.
I can't learn things out from a one-shot deal. So therefore, since Lulav is only by day, Sukkah should only be by day. Says the Gemara, Talmud Loima, therefore we did Tyrant when it went and said, and now we're on Mem Gimel Amid Beis. Teishvu. It says,
By the way, that sounds like a weak argument. We still do the third nine malachos on Shabbos, even though that was a one-shot deal.
No, that's why
we don't do the third nine malachos on Shabbos because of the Mishkan. So that argument is not a strong argument.
Because the Beis Hamikdash They didn't do. They had the same 39 malachas.
No,
So it's considered for eternity, therefore,
Exactly.
right.
It is eternity,
first of all, the Mishkan does exist.
and that's
Still-
another
still
thing. The
there.
Michigan still exists. We just don't know
Never,
where.
it
We
says-
don't know
No,
where
but
it
we'll
is.
make an argument here about the lulav in reference
Right.
to
But
something that
the,
was
the,
done
the
once.
better answer is once the establishment of the avodah of the Mishkan is there, that avodah is forever
Right.
because that avodah became from the Mishkan. It
To the
became
Beis Mikdash.
to the Beis Hamikdash.
So we use the
And the
argument for
base of
Yamin, for the Mishkan, we should transfer it to the lulav without any
Wait,
question.
that's what we're saying. It's a mitzvah. So now the question becomes, which way are we going to? Who are we going to compare lulav to? We know lulav is only by day, right? We've limited it by day.
Yeah.
Now the question is about sukkah. Do I compare it to lulav because it has the similar words, and therefore the mitzvah of sukkah should only be by day? Or no, do I compare it to the miluyim, right, where the mitzvah was day and night? Which one is a better comparison? Each one has weaknesses in its argument, right? Each one has weaknesses because the miluyim was a mitzvah of day and it was an all-day mitzvah. Sukkah is an all-day mitzvah. Lulav is only a moment's mitzvah. Masha and King Lulav is a mitzvah l'dairis for generations. Sukkah is a mitzvah l'dairis. Inauguration, by definition, obviously is a one-shot deal. You can only inaugurate something once. Talmud Laimer, therefore, the pasuk says, "Teishvu, teishvu l'gzeir Shabbat." By Sukkah, it says, "By Sukkah's teishvu shivas yamim." And regarding what do you call it?
Milui.
Miluyim, it also says, "Teishvu, you shall live."
says,
Aaron and his
Pe-
sons had to live.
Pesach al Moed Teshvu Yom V'Layla.
Yom of Alayla. The pasuk says it straight out. So therefore, that's then the case, right? So nema kan teshvu. Regarding sukkah, it says sukkah teshvu shemitz yomim. V'nema b'miluyim teshvu, and by the inauguration, it said
So
you shall dwell day and night in the Mishkan. Ma'ala hala yomim afilu leilos. Kan yomim afilu leilos, because the gezeir shava is always stronger than any kavachayma argument you might be able to make. So now we go. Araba shiva ketza. The araba in
That's a general principle.
yes, always. Araba, an argument, and in fact, many times you're going to say the Gemara is going to say, well, we have such a good argument. Why did the Torah have to bring it? So the Gemara is going to say something that you can learn out of of an argument. The Torah goes out of its way to try to bring it explicitly, because even though you logically can figure it out, the Torah doesn't really want you to use always your logic, because sometimes the logic doesn't work.
Yeah, because something that you learn from the Kabul Chaimer, it's a logic, like my son said.
There's a mental
But-
extension.
But it's very possible that maybe in the next generation,
They're going to
because
learn it differently.
somebody who's very learned will be able to show to you that the Kabul Chaimer is flawed. So therefore, you cannot always rely on a.
Actually, the better way to look at this is from the
So this-
sociologist's way. Germany after World War One, okay,
You always have a good
considered
historic claim.
considered itself to be the most civilized nation in Europe. Proper, trains ran on time, right? Even though it was the Weimar thing, and economically they were in a lot of trouble, but they were always very proper and all that. Those same people who were sort of in 10 years later became monsters, because 10 years earlier the logic was to be civilized. Of course you shall kill. 10 years later they were proper. They said, of course you shouldn't kill except for those who we consider to be vermin. The Torah says this is the reason why one of the 10
By the
commandments,
way, that's
one of the 10 commandments is that you shall not kill. Question always is, what do you need a commandment? That means you're not kill. Every civilized country has a laws. You're not allowed to murder.
Right.
The answer
We know
is, you
better
know what the
now.
Rabbeinu Shalom is saying? Exactly. You shall not murder because I told you not to murder. Not because logically you know you shouldn't murder. Because if your logic says you shouldn't murder now, somewhere down the line, your logic will say, but those people you can murder.
Right.
Don't use your logic. At the end of the day, or in the words of the Brisker Vart, Koidem frek vos and Nochtem frek farvos. First ask, what is it that I'm supposed to do? And afterwards ask, why am I supposed to do it? But not knowing the why is not an excuse not to do the what. You do the what, you don't kill. You know why you don't kill? Because God commanded you not to kill. Not, don't use your own logic. Yes, Daddy.
By the way, I just wanted to point out the Nazis used racial
Racial,
That's what-
what's economics? What was it
no,
called?
I don't know what it is,
Yeah.
but that's what they're doing now in
100%.
the schools.
Of course that's
What do
what-
they call that?
Critical race theory.
Yeah,
The critical race theory
is
is if you roll back to the late 20s, early 30s.
that's what the Nazis did.
But the Nazis did it the other way. We're the Irons, right? And the Jews are the vermin and all that. By essentially going ahead and
And they're
saying,
saying what in the school that the white
and this,
people
the
are
white
vermin?
people are vermin, exactly,
Yeah,
are
yeah.
essentially evil.
That's what they,
When
In
you
fact,
teach that,
I saw on the documentary on YouTube, it was
Right.
very interesting to show you when Hitler wanted to make a pact with Stalin, with Russia,
Mhm.
because he didn't want to, he wanted to
He didn't want
invade
two-
Poland.
right.
He didn't want to have a two-front war. He told his photographer who was going there with the Ribbentrop
Yep.
that before you sign anything, take a picture of Stalin's ear, his ear, and then send it to me to see the picture. He wanted to see if it's going to be like a Jewish ear. Jewish ears, according to them, was they was attached a certain
Way
way,
attached to the ear.
and an Aryan ear was different. And he said when he saw that the ear was not the way the Jews are, he said, okay, you could sign the thing. That shows you, they had pictures, foreheads, noses, which tells you
And color box.
right. And that when you start that way,
You start down that road,
that
Lord
means you
Sirzach,
demonize
you
people.
shall not kill,
Yeah.
but the moment you demonize, that's what he called. So the answer is anytime that we use a logic, the Gemara, you'll see the Lashon throughout the Shas. Torach v'kosav lo kra.
And the whole
The
Gomer
Torah
is
is
interpretive.
interpreted as a logistic. And it says, listen to the Lashon of the Gemara. Torach, it's a tircha. It's a lot of work. The Gemara, the Torah goes out of its way to write it deliberately in the Torah.
What do you call that racist thing that they
It's
teach
a
now?
critical race theory.
Critical race.
Critical race. Always a nice name. Let's go further because we got 10 minutes and
But
at
it's
least I want
funny,
to get
it's
on
the
to
white teachers who are teaching
because
them that
because,
white is. I
because
mean,
they're stupid. Okay, forget it.
And I'm ashamed when they're Jews.
Yeah, unfortunately. Araba Shiva Ketzah.
very dangerous what's happening.
It sure is. Araba Shiva Ketzah. Araba in the base of English for 7 days. What's going on?
What do they
40
say that the black women who are
What,
in
B-
Congress?
B2?
Yeah,
They
B-
said
no,
they want
B-
the white people
B1.
dead. They say it outward now.
Mhm.
The black women in Congress, they say
Yeah,
we
they-
want white people
yeah,
dead. They
yeah.
say it.
Okay.
And all the whites there are saying, yeah.
All right, let's guys come. Let's learn it. We're up to
We
line.
better stop.
We're up to on the fourth line on the page.
Aroba.
Araba Shiva
Okay.
Ketzah. Okay, now here we go. Araba b'shvi my time of Shabbos. How come the Araba ceremony Hashana Rabbah? This is the 7th day of Yom Tov. How come that's the day for the Araba ceremony to push off the Shabbos, right? What do you call it?
Yeah.
It should be also just like the
Right.
lulav
Yeah.
is also on the 7th day. Rabbi Yochanan, to teach that this whole thing about the Arabas is in fact has biblical origins. If that's the case, then on the 7th day, the lulav obligation should also override the Shabbos.
Because
Then
here,
the Parsim in Torah that there's 7 days that you take the lulav in the Beis Hamikdash. Lulav gezeira mishum derabba. Lulav has the problem because of the gezeira of Rabbah that you might come to carry 4 amis in the Rishus Rabbim when you take it to the expert.
the
Iyach-
fact is very interesting.
Iyach-
There's a pasuk in
Wait.
the Torah that the Sukka. So why
Yeah.
you need to be mefarsim?
No, because it says "V'lakat lechem b'yoyim harishon."
Only beyond the
It doesn't say anywhere. We learn out that in the base of it, you take it for 7 days, but it limited it to the lakachtem was
We know
beyond
it's
the
in the
rishon.
Torah.
Yeah, ein chanami, but it's not clear. Once it's not clear, you need to be mefarsim. I hachi araba nami. What by araba you should worry about on the 7th day that you might come to carry it to an expert and how to bang the lulav, to bang the arabas. Arava shluchei bezdin ma'isla. Arava is not taken by each and every individual. The agents, the shaluchim of bezdin, would bring the branches to the Azara, to the courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash, and the Kahanim would circle the Mizbeach, because only the Kahanim were allowed over there.
Right.
So therefore, there's no reason that somebody might make a mistake and carry it on Shabbos. We're dealing with the court officials. Lulav lakol, since Lulav is v'lakachtem, everybody's got to take it. No, all of us guys, what do we know? We're a bunch of Amaratz and us. We're on 43b2. If there's no rationale to decree regarding Araba because it's under the protective care of the courts and the Kahanim, kol yaimenami lidchi, then any day, if Shabbos falls out on the third day, you should still take the Arabas, because who's in charge of the Arabas? The court and the Kahanim. So the Gemara asila puke bilula, because what's going to come, if you could take the Arabas, but you can't take the lulav in Ezra because it's day 2 through 7, right? Day 2 through 6. People are going to disparage the lulav. They're going to say the lulav is not the most important mitzvah. The Arava is, you see, because the Arava is Daicha Shabbos, even in the middle.
Right.
Says the Gemara, right? But let the Arava at least override the Shabbos on the first day of Yom Tov. Why are you waiting for the 7th?
Right.
Says the Gemara, because if the Arava would override this on the first, it wouldn't be apparent that it's being done because of the Arava. It's because since I'm allowed to take the lulav on the first day of Yom Tov in the Beis Hamikdash, because said Lakakabi, and since in the lulav there happens to be an Arava, so already once I'm taking that, I can take the other Aravas, but normally I can't do it. So says the Gemara, but let the Arava override the Shabbos on only one of these other 6 days. Why did they pick Dafka the 7th day for the override? Since they removed it from the first day of Yom Tov, because we don't want it to be overridden by the Lulav, right? So therefore, what are the 2 holiday days? The non-Chalamoy days, the first day of Yom Tov, and the last day of Yom Tov. So boom, I move it to the last day.
I was wondering, let's say, if the Gemara says, why don't you do it in the middle if Shabbos falls? Then when is Shona Rabbah? Shona Rabbah is when we do the Arovas thing.
Well,
so then according to them, if you do it, let's say the 3rd day, so what do you do Shona Rabbah? When
that's
is
a very good,
that 3rd day
right.
Shona
So
Rabbah?
since the Gemara is not going to stick to this,
right?
Let's just keep going.
It's
and actually,
academic,
the reason why the Gemara is not going to stick to it, essentially, is going to be that's going to be the answer. Because what you just said, because the Shana Rabbah is a Shana Rabbah, a lot.
Yeah.
Let's follow through the Gemara. Remember your kash. Hachi adina nami litchi, right? So then Abizai let the Arabas override the Shabbos on the 7th day. If a Shana Rabbah falls out on the 7th day, we do not do it, right? It never falls out on the 7th day. But if it falls out on the 7th day, we wouldn't do it. So how do you pull it off? Anan says Gemara, Anan lo yadina b'kibir diacha. We in Babel don't know the establishment of the new month. So we're always not sure when the last day is, just like we don't know the first day, right? So since I've got that problem, right, we can't override the Shabbos on an uncertainty. Right. Says the Gemara, no, fine. But we who are 43b3, we in Eretz Yisrael who know how to override the month, let them override the Shabbos. Nowadays, the 7th day of Sukkot never falls out on Shabbos. So it's all academic. Shana Rabbah never falls out on Shabbos.
I'm asking according to the Havana.
Wait, yeah.
No, but what's the reason for that?
What? Because that's the patience. The reason. Good question. Says the Gemara, Ki Asar Ravin b'chol Choisei Amri. But when Ravin and all of those came from Eretz Yisrael to Babel, they said, Ikli v'loy dachi. You're wrong. The 7th day does fall out on Shabbos. The Shana Rabbah could fall out on Shabbos, right? And it still doesn't override the Shabbos. So Elakasha. Why in Eretz Yisrael it should override, right? If they did in the Beis Hamikdash, al Zeichel Hamikdash, just like the lulav would override. So the haraba should override on the 7th. Amar Rabbi Yosef, man lemalei da haraba b'netila. Who will tell us that the biblical, called the biblical haraba obligation is performed by taking it? Dilma zakifa. Maybe the whole mitzvah wasn't taking it by hand, was standing up these tall willows up against the mizbeach. That was what it was. They surrounded the base. We didn't shake it. It's like shvuas when they put trees around the bima. Says the Gemara, Esrei Abaya challenged him. Lulav haraba shisha v'shiva. Our Mishnah started off the lulav and the haraba are either taken 6 days or 7 days, depending on when the Shabbos falls. My love, kilulav, ma lulav b'netila, haraba b'netila. Just like lulav has to be taken, so the haraba has to be taken. So it says, Rabbi, I said, what are you talking about? Midi are you? That's not a proof. Hakid Isa. Each one is mutually exclusive. This one is taken, this one is stood up. Esvei Abaya. But it says like this. Each day of the first 6 days of Sukkot, they went around the Mizbeach one time, like we do. We go around the Bima one time. They went around 7 times. Ma'ila barova. They encircled it within Arava. Says the Gemara, loy belulav. No, in fact, they went around with the lulav, and in fact, we also go around with the lulav, not with the but we don't go with the Hashanahs. We don't go with the Hashanah, exactly. Not the Hashanah. We go with the lulav and esrog. On Hashanah, and that's because him. Loy said we're going like Rabbi Yossi. Loy belulav. We do it with the lulav. Says the Gemara on 43 before. They circled it. He says they did circle them as Mizbeach with the Arabas. Amalei, who Amalei Arabah? Banana Mina Belulav. He says they went around Arabas. I'm saying they went around with Lulav. I love that answer. Itma. Rabbi Elazar Ayman. Rabbi Elazar says Belulav. They went around with the Lulav. Rav Shmuel Bar Nosin Amar Rabbi Chanina Bar Rava. They went with an Arava. V'chein Amar Rav Nachman Amar Rabbi Bar Ravua Bar Rava. Amalei Rava Rabbi Yitzchak Berei Dera Rabbi Bar Rav Chana. Bar Uriah, son of the Torah, you great Talmud Chacham. Tov ve'emala milsa mi'alsa the ha'ama avucha. Tell me something great that your father said. Hadatnan that we learned in the Mishnah Kol Hayom Akivin Mizbeach Pamachas. That each of the 6 days they circle the Mizbeach one time. But on that day they would circle the Mizbeach 7 times. This is what your father said in the name of Rabbi Elazar. Belulav. They encircled it with a lulav, which is of course the way we do it today. Esvei, they challenge lulav Shabbos b'tchilasar. The lulav overrides the Shabbos on the first day of Yontif b'tchilasar when it falls out on Shabbos. Va'arabah b'sayfai and arabah when Hashanah Rabbah falls out on the 7th day. One time it actually turned out that Shana Rabbah fell out on Shabbos. They brought the shoots of the Arabah on Erev Shabbos on Friday. And they placed them in the courtyard. And the Baitusim, right, which were a sect of Baitus, before they did not believe in rabbinical Jewry, and they said it doesn't say Arabah straight out in the Torah, so you can't derive it, and so they wanted to start up. So what did they do? They took the Arabas and they hid them under the rocks. They piled rocks on top of them, and the rocks on books. So they knew that the guys wouldn't move them on Shabbos. And then the next day, some Ami Aretz came first. The Ami Aretz came first. Now the Ami Aretz, interesting, were all for the Rabbanim. All for rabbinical Jewry, even though they didn't know, they were the Orthodox Jews. They were the Pasha Yid, the simple Jew. And when they saw that they were covered with rocks, and they took them out from under the rocks. They didn't know you weren't supposed to move the rocks. And the Kahanim brought them and stood them at the side of the Mizbeach. Now, why did the Baitusim behave like this? Because the Baitusim did not admit that waving the Araba overrides the Shabbos. Alma, Benetilu, we're dealing with taking the Araba, not simply standing them up against the Mizbeach. To Yufta, it's a referation to Rabbi Yosef and all those who said that they were merely stood, the Arabas merely stood. 43b5. The Eila Nidchu, but today, after the destruction of Beis Hamikdash, let those in Eretz Yisrael override the Shabbos for the sake of the Arava ceremony. How come they don't? And now we come to the side. Chiv and the Anan Loidikin, since we in Bubble cannot override the Shabbos for the sake of the Arava obligation, because we don't know exactly when everything was established in Unami Loidochu. They too cannot do it. In other words, when we have a gezerah, we have one gezerah for everybody. Because of the rule of lois to do agudas. We can't have two tyrus. Says the Gemara, b'yonta varishan. But the first day of Yontif, that we do not override the Shabbos in Bavel, we don't take the lulav and esrog on Shabbos. But in Eretz Yisrael, they do take the lulav and esrog on Shabbos. We do take the Shabbos. So now we're on today's daf. Just says the Gemara, we're just going to get to what it goes. Amri, we got the Pshat. Even in Eretz Yisrael, we don't take lulav and esrog on the first day of Yom Tov.
Because of Babel?
Because of Babel. We don't have
Would you think it would be the opposite way?
No.
It's a practical interpretation.
We always go after the negative.
It's a practical interpretation.
I'm telling you the answer. We always go after the negative.
Well, you can't because it was a Sophie.
It was
No,
one.
I understand.
Once you know that for sure, the people in Bubble can't take it because they don't know exactly when the Yom Tov was established. That's it. We have one rule in Klal Yisrael. So says the Gemara. Let's just go. Let me just get to a good point here. I just want to give Ella Kasha high tray, but now we have a difficulty between the two Mishnahs. The Tanacha, the Kolah, Meilichin is 11 Laharabayis, that they took all it, that they would take the lives to the Harabayis. Vitana Idach, the Beis HaKnesses. Umitartzin, and we said, Kambizman Beis HaMikdash Kayim, that's when they took it to the Beis HaMikdash. Kambizman Beis HaMikdash Kayim, that's when they took it to Shul. But either way, you see, they did bring the Lulav and Esrog on the first day of Yom Tov. Loy, no. I did Bisman Beis HaMikdash Kayim. Both of these are when the Beis HaMikdash stood. The Loy Kashi, Kam B'Mikdash, those are those who are located near the Beis HaMikdash. It's okay. Kam B'Givulin, those who lived in the provinces who couldn't make it to the Beis HaMikdash, they went to Shul. So this is where
they did in their house.
That's either in the house or the Shul, whatever they would say the thing. So over here, Amalei Abayil Rav is where we're starting on Shabbos. So we're a daf behind. We're going to do daf Mem Dalid, and I'm going to try at the very least. There's a Mishnah on daf Mem Hey Amid Aleph on 45. On 45a1 is the Mishnah. I'm going to try to at least get to that Mishnah. I'm going to try to even do the Mishnah. So on Sunday, at the very least, we're probably going to start one daf behind on Mem Hey Amid Aleph. Very good, everybody. I got to run.